Hi, everyone. My name is Patrick Perez. I'm the Vice President of Content and Development at Greysheet. And today I'm joined by Owen Linzmayer, the editor of the Banknote Book. Of course, the Banknote Book is our world paper money product that is the leading and most accurate catalog in the world for world paper money collectors, researchers, dealers, and auction houses. It's something that we were really excited about. We've been working on it for 2 years with Owen. And yeah, so we're here today to bring you some of the updates about what's been going on and things that you can look forward to. So Owen, thanks for joining me today and welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me, Patrick.
So probably two of the most exciting things that we have going on right now are the countries of Scotland and France, which are, major, huge collecting areas, countries that have a very, very lengthy banking and paper money issuing history. So they require a ton of work, to put it bluntly. And we've just published the Scotland chapter. So Owen, would you like to talk a little bit about that, and as far as the depth of its coverage and kind of what it brings to the table for collectors?
Sure. As some people know, there was a partially complete version of the Scotland chapter that had been published a while back. Rather than wait for everything to be completed, we figured, as we can finish material, we wanted to make it available. So we published them based on the issuers. But people always want the full everything, the full Monty, as it were. And the author of this chapter is Mark Irwin. And I worked very closely with Mark over the last few years to finalize all the content in this. And he's been working like crazy to get coverage of all the remaining issuing banks for Scotland. These include, the big ones, the Bank of Scotland, the Royal Bank of Scotland, the Commercial Bank of Scotland. There's some, 9 different national issuers for Scotland over time. And each one of these produced, hundreds of different notes, and it just took a long time to do it right. We didn't want to get something out that was incomplete or incorrect. So we took our time, and we're really proud now to have published the new complete version of Scotland. This chapter is clocking in at almost 250 pages with almost 4,000 different banknote varieties covered.
Well, that's tremendous. And one thing about Scotland is, like so many of the nations of the British area sphere of influence, let's say, they have each note has many dates, and previous catalogs kind of group all those dates together, whereas Banknote Book, we list all those dates individually because not all dates were issued in the same amount. They have different signature varieties, different prefix varieties, and so I think that's something that's very helpful to collectors.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, at the beginning of starting the Banknote Book, I wanted to make sure we listed every single date variety, every single signature variety. And in some cases, that's simply just not doable. It's impractical because the printer is printing notes on a daily basis and changing the dates. So in some cases, we did revert to giving date ranges. But for Scotland, almost everything is listed. All the individual dates, wherever practical, are listed as their own separate varieties. And the idea is that in time, as these varieties come out for auction, we're going to be able to provide pricing that is unique to that particular date or that particular signature. And hopefully that'll allow people to see that there are big differences in the values of certain notes, because like you said, one date might have only been produced in 10,000 notes and another date might have been produced in the millions. Clearly those are going to bring different prices when they go to market.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like the key date concept that we have in coins, whereas the notes will have the key date of various series and various issuers, and that's something that's completely not understood by the collecting public at large. I mean, specialists have kind of always secretly known which ones are great, or which ones are very scarce or you never come across. But we're trying to make that information on a much more wider basis. I will say, as someone who oversees the pricing for Banknote Book, that we do publish chapters sometimes that do not yet have pricing, just because we want to get the catalog and image information into the collector's hands so that they can start using the numbering system, which is our big push. But we will say that for you collectors and dealers, that pricing will always follow in the 4 to 6 weeks after initial publication of a chapter, whether it's a new chapter or whether it's one that's being supplemented with uh, previously published information. So that's something that everyone can kind of keep in their back pocket. The
Yeah, I
next,
don't envy you the task of pricing the new Scotland chapter listings, because like I said, there's literally almost 4,000 different varieties, and there's just no way that anybody can really go through and price every single one of those. But many of these listings are so rare that there's going to be no valuations for a very long time because they simply do not show up on market. The records, the official records are the only records that exist anymore, that we know that these notes were issued, but no notes are known to have survived. So sometimes a blank price simply means we can't price it because it's not known or confirmed as issued. Others, like you said, it's just a matter of, this is new material, we want to get into the hands of people right away. And rather than wait for everything to be perfect and complete, we'd rather get the content out, because pricing is always a moving target. So we appreciate that, people have been patient. I hope they'll be a little more patient for the follow-up pricing to come.
100%, 100%. So the next thing, another massive topic and massive chapter, is France. And I know you've been working away like crazy on that chapter. It's going to be the next major one that gets published. And France is interesting because they're one of, if not the first, well, not including the very, very early, Ming Chinese stuff, but they're amongst the earliest issuers of paper money in the Western world. So they have a very, very long issuing history. What have you found in your research and in your work on the France chapter, over the past handful of months?
Yeah, I know people have been very eagerly awaiting the publication of the France chapter, because the French notes, the French colonial notes, are some of the most beautiful banknotes in the world. I love the French notes myself as a collector. I'm not a specialist in them. I don't read French. I don't speak French. So a lot of the work that's gone into doing this research has been based on working with some native French speakers and collectors who are great contributors to the catalog. And then also relying a lot on going and taking the material that has been published about France, which is in the French language, and translating it, running it through Google Translate, working with, like I said, native French speakers to go and actually go to the source material whenever possible. France has been really well documented with catalogs such as this, but it's all in French for the most part. And if you're an English-speaking collector, it's pretty hard to get through this. And so I've been spending tons of time researching, doing a lot of very, very deep research on the original edicts that came out, the laws. These are 250 some odd years old in French, but the French were really great at record keeping. So it's been fun to go through and research this, get the law dates correct, get exactly what they were stipulating in those laws correct. I found tons of errors in the standard catalog because quite frankly, they simply never put in the time to do the research that was necessary to get all the facts right. And I'm hoping that when we publish this in the coming month, that people are going to be very pleased and happy to have waited to see what I think is probably the best English language coverage of the French notes that's ever been produced.
That's very exciting, and it's really cool because I think that the number one selling point or advantage of Banknote Book is that it's it covers so many things. It is a price guide, but it's also an image gallery because there's so many notes that you'll never see in the wild pictured there. And it's also a great research tool because you do so much great background information, and the introductory text for the different series and issuers is usually very thorough. So it's so cool how it touches so many different points in one product. And as you touched on, the banknote book for many chapters, but especially for France, it fixes so many errors that were previously published and that have been repeated because there was no other alternative, and or just very like or strange cataloging conventions, weird suffixes, weird prefixes. So now we'll have one clean numbering system for France from the beginning in what 1720s is some of the earliest stuff.
Yeah, early 1700s, all
Yeah,
the way to present day. Yeah.
the present day, and it will be one comprehensive numbering system, and it's very very clean, and I absolutely love that. Um, so when do you think? I know you mentioned there's no hard date, but what do you think? For collectors that are anticipating France, what are we looking at?
I'm hopeful that we will have a first draft, if not published draft, before the upcoming Maastricht show. So that's basically a month away. Right now I'm putting the finishing touches on what I consider my first internal draft, and trying to just get answers to some questions that I have. One of the joys of working on this catalog is, you know, I keep digging and digging and digging until I've tried to get all the answers to anything that I go, geez, this doesn't make sense. Like for instance, the very early assignat notes. Oftentimes, these things, if you read a lot of the information you'll find online, they'll indicate that they were issued in such and such a date. And I would look at it and I go, geez, that just doesn't make sense, because that's the date of the law that is these notes were issued pursuant to a particular decree, let's say. And I know from doing all the cataloging of all the rest of the world that law dates precede issue dates, usually by months, if not years.
Right.
And it just dawned on me that this is probably wrong, this information I'm finding out there. And sure enough, when I dug into it, and I said, there must be these original decrees somewhere, and find these things in France or in French, run them through Google Translate, figure out exactly what was going on. You realize, oh no, this was the date that the law came out. But the notes, if you read subsequent law dates and decrees, you realize the notes weren't printed until months later and issued even, further down the line. So that's the kind of research I really enjoyed doing. And I put the results of my research in the catalog. As you mentioned, the background historical context, I think, is what makes the Banknote Book really stand out, because it would have been easy to just publish a whole bunch of images, put them in kind of order based on what we think the dates are, and be done with it. But by doing the research that understands the background in which they were issued, giving historical information about the French Revolution and how all the numbering systems changed, all the decimalization happened, the change from the pound notes to the franc notes, and explaining that instead of just saying, oh, we'll just assume everybody knows, that takes a lot of time. But I think the results are worth it.
Absolutely, 100%, 100%. Well, great, exciting stuff. I will definitely I'm going to bring a physical copy of the draft of France, of whatever state it is, when I go to Maastricht myself, along with Scotland, so that subscribers and potential people can see what it actually looks like, and so it's very exciting. So Owen, if you have anything else, let me know. But otherwise, thanks for joining me.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. I'm afraid I'm not going to be attending Maastricht this year, but I wish everybody the best at the show. I'm really looking forward to getting these chapters finalized, published. We're now at over 310 different individual country-specific chapters. I recently moved to New Jersey. I'm no longer day-to-day working all the time on a construction project that's been taking up most of my time the last few years. So now I'm dedicating my time to completing these the few remaining chapters that we have not yet published. But as of today, there's only three currently issuing countries That would be Norway, Sweden, and the US, which we have not yet published chapters for. There are less than 24 countries that we have not yet published chapters for, and these are going to start getting knocked down pretty quickly, I think, now that we can devote our time to it. And I can't tell you how many months I've been working on France and Scotland. Now that those are done, we can focus our attention on others such as Greece, Ecuador, some of the other chapters that everybody's been asking about. But I think if you take a look at the two chapters that we're just publishing now and talking about the Scotland and France, you'll see why it takes a long time. I mean, a lot of the work from Scotland came with the help of the author of these two volume sets, Jonathan Calloway. As you can see, these are giant, 1,100 pages of just on Scotland, a specialized catalog. We're never going to compete with the specialized catalog because these alone are $100 for the pair. The French catalog I showed you earlier is been out since 2007. If you went to buy it, we will probably spend $75 to buy that alone. And Scotland and France are just two of 310 different countries that you get with a subscription to the world through the Banknote Book.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is a great point. It is it's an all-in-one tool that is just tremendous. Well, Owen, awesome. Thank you very much again for joining me. Thanks for all your amazing work. And yeah, we look forward to what's coming to the future for Banknote Book. Have a
Okay,
wonderful
well,
day.
thank you very much. All right, take care.